Good morning, my friends. I have one more Irish folktale for you today. This is called Jamie O'Rourke and the Big Potato, another Irish folktale by Tommy DePaula. Jamie O'Rourke was the laziest man in all of Ireland. And there's Jamie. He would do anything to avoid working, especially if it had to do with growing potatoes. Jamie O'Rourke, his wife Eileen would say, will have nothing to eat this winter if you don't go out and dig up those praties. Now in Ireland, a pratie is another word for potato. Oh, saints preserve us, Jamie would whine. Me back's as sore as can be. Sure, I'm telling you, wife, you'll have to dig them up all by yourself. I'll break in two if I so much get out of this bed. What a lazy bones. So Eileen, who had done all the planning and watering and weeding anyhow, would go out to the tiny garden and dig up the smallest potatoes in Ireland, all because Jamie was too lazy to dig a larger garden and had no money to buy good potato seed. Then poor Eileen hurt her back and was laid up in bed. Saint Bridget and the Virgin Mary herself must have smiled on Eileen O'Rourke, the village woman would say. Why, it's the first rest she's had since she married that Jamie O'Rourke. Poor Eileen. With Eileen in bed, Jamie began to worry. No Eileen to dig meant no praties all winter, and no praties meant no food. Oh, poor me, said Jamie. I'll starve to death. I'd best go to church and confess to Father O'Malley. There's no telling how soon old Death will be knocking at my door. So even though it was midnight, Jamie set out for the church. He was about halfway down the hill when he heard singing and a tap, tap, tapping sound. Who could it be? Can you guess? Sure, and I wouldn't be knowing, Jamie whispered, but I swear it's a leprechaun. And sure enough, sitting in a circle of ferns in the moonlight was a leprechaun, singing and hammering tiny nails into the heels of the fairy boots he was making. Jamie knew just what to do. What would you do if you saw a leprechaun? He crept up and grabbed the little man by his coattails and held on firm. Let me go, the leprechaun shouted. Not on your life, said Jamie. Not until you show me where you keep your pot of gold. Poor little leprechaun. Now everyone in Ireland knows that leprechauns make boots and dancing shoes for fairies, who pay them with gold. And everyone knows that if you catch a leprechaun, he'll pay for his freedom with his pot of gold. But this leprechaun was smarter than most. Oh, please, Mr. Mortal Man, I'm just starting out to make fairy shoes and I only have 1 or 2 pieces of gold in my pot. Will you take a wish instead? Why, what would I wish for, said Jamie. Me who's about to die of starvation because my wife is sick in bed and can't dig the praties for the winter, and they're such puny praties anyhow. Well, said the leprechaun, reaching into his pocket, you could wish for the biggest pratie in the world. It would last all winter, and you wouldn't have to do anything more than plant this one seed, water it, and wait. One seed. That sounded pretty wonderful to Jamie. Done, he shouted, and as the leprechaun dropped the seed into Jamie's hand, Jamie let go of his coattails, and off that leprechaun scampered. When Eileen heard what he had done, she was angry. Jamie O'Rourke, you're not only the laziest man in Ireland, but you're a fool as well. Giving up a pot of gold for a pratie seed. Well, I'm going to plant this seed and water it, and you'll see, said Jamie. And out the door he went. Eileen looks angry. He hoed all around it, but he couldn't dig that pratie out of the ground. Oops, I think I missed a page. And faith Eileen did see. No longer had he planted the seed that the biggest, finest potato plant had sprouted out of the ground, followed by the potato itself. It was so big, it pushed not only the dirt in the garden, but the garden shed and the corner of the cottage as well. There's our friend again. Well, surely now it's ready to dig, said Jamie proudly. Look at the size of that potato. Wow. He hoed all around it, but he couldn't dig that pratie out of the ground. He got a beam and a rock and tried to pry it out. He pushed and he pushed, but it wouldn't budge. As he was pondering what to do, his neighbor passed by on his way to the village. He couldn't believe his eyes. He couldn't wait to tell everyone in the village what he had seen. And before you know it, up the hill to Jamie's was filled with villagers coming to see his giant potato. Here's our music again. Where did it come from, they asked. Jamie told them about the lucky night he had caught the leprechaun and how smart he had been. Why, anyone would have gotten the pot of gold, he bragged, but the biggest pratie in the world, well, that took some doing. However did you outsmart the leprechaun, they asked. Jamie hesitated and scratched his head. We'll help you dig up your pratie, Jamie, if you tell us how you did it. They grabbed shovels and hoes, and they all started to dig. All ready to help. They dug and they dug and they pushed and they shoved until that potato flew up out of its hole. It rolled down the hill faster and faster until it reached the bottom, where it bounced up high and came to a stop, wedged between the stone walls on either side of the road. Uh-oh. Now what to do? That is a big potato. That pratie's too big. No cart, nothing can get it out, said the policeman, complaining to Father O'Malley. How's a body to get in or out of the village? What shall we do? The villagers wailed. Then they all looked at Jamie and said, It's your pratie. You'll have to move it out of our way. Well, Eileen spoke up. There's more than enough pratie for everyone. Why don't you all take some? So if they shared, that might solve their problem. So the villagers saved, sawed, and chopped and carted off huge pieces of potato, while Jamie sat on the stone wall and watched. Of course he did. He was a lazy bones. All winter, everyone had potato to eat and eat and eat and eat until no one wanted to see or hear of a potato again. That's kind of how I feel about potatoes. Too many growing up. In the spring, Jamie said, I saved the potato eye for a seed, and it's time to plant it. Oh, no, the villagers cried. If you promise not to plant it, Jamie, we'll promise before St. Patrick and all the saints to see that you and Eileen always have plenty to cook and eat. We don't want another giant pratie around here. Jamie smiled and agreed. What a perfect life for a lazy man. And so, you see, darling Eileen, Jamie told her, I wasn't such a fool with that leprechaun after all. And Eileen had to admit, Jamie O'Rourke was right. Instead of potatoes, they gave Jamie and Eileen all the food they ever needed. And no potatoes. And look who's sitting with his pot of gold. Do you think he tricked Jamie? I think he may have. Have a wonderful day. I'll have another story for you tomorrow.